going on, man? Thank you for having me on your show today.
Great to connect with you, man. How's it going out there in the West Coast?
Man, it's lovely. The weather's nice. It's starting to warm up out here, so getting ready for the pool and the kids. We got Easter tomorrow, so a lot of egg coloring and lots of baskets for the kids. And
I'm sure my time will come for that.
So how's it going, man?
Good, man. I appreciate you letting me connect with you. I know I wanted to run this back with you. You gave me the opportunity to be on your show with Momentum Media, so just wanted to pay it forward. Super excited in seeing all that you've done, and same on my end. So I'm just picking up a lot of the things that you've been doing and learning from you and continue to remain inspired. But enough about me. This is all about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what your mission is.
Yeah, so I was born in Tucson, Arizona, actually, and my dad was a All-American football player at the University of Arizona. I met my mom there, and when I was about 4 years old, we moved out to San Diego. My mom actually came back to Arizona when I was 7 years old, so it was just me and my dad, and it was cool for a while. Then things started going downhill a little bit when I was around 10 years old. My mother was actually shot in her head by her boyfriend, and she was in a coma for about 3 months. And at first they didn't tell me what actually happened. They told me that she fell and hit her head on a fire hydrant. But after that, I mean, she had a lot of damage that was done to her brain, I was going back and forth from my mom's and my dad's house, as a kid, and there was really no stability in my life, so I really didn't know what the meaning of family was. So family, I didn't really have a picture in my head of what a family was supposed to look like, because I was kind of passed around. So I tried to find, what the meaning of family. The closest thing that I had growing up as a kid was my grandparents to, show me what a relationship is. But at age 13, I was walking to school, and as I was walking to school, I saw my dad's truck parked across the street, down the street from my school. And so I walk over to my dad's truck, and I see my dad in the car, and he was crying. It was the first time I ever seen my dad cry. And I asked him what happened, and he said, they got him, they killed him. So I was 13 years old. My uncle was laying in a foyer. He was stabbed by a 16-year-old. They say it was over a cell phone. It was a confrontation, but we later found out it was due to some gang violence. That day, my life kind of changed a lot. I was always the kid, like, back when I was growing up, people would say, yo mama jokes and things like that, but they knew not to say yo mama jokes to me because I'd end up punching them in the face. So I just had a really, really bad anger problem. And when I was in 7th grade, so this was the same year that my uncle died, I started just getting into a lot of fights and started hanging out with the wrong people. My parents decided to take me out of public school and put me into a private school. And when they did that, my life changed around, for a little bit. It was a quick fix. I started doing really good in school. There was only about 10 people in 7th grade, and then my graduating class in middle school was only 10 people. So it was a really small class. But while I was there, I found God, I met a really good friend who's now actually the godfather of my kids, I just learned discipline when I was there. So when I got into high school, my freshman year, I was focused. I was ready to hit the road and become successful, because at that time I was playing sports, and I was playing football. So my dream was to play in the NFL. So I would do anything and everything to do that. And I was making sacrifices, not hanging out with my friends, going to the gym, and doing everything that I could to get better. And one year, I went out on a vacation, and some drugs were introduced to me. So, and this was by a person that I thought at the time had my best interest. And I had no idea what these drugs were. I just took them, and one thing led to another. I came back to San Diego, and I saw the same thing, and I was like, I did that with this person, so it's not that bad. So I started using a lot in my senior year in high school. Started drinking. Eventually started selling drugs. Moved out of my dad's house at 17 years old. Started slinging weed and anything I can get my hands on out of my cousin's garage, and I would still go to school every day, and I graduated with a 3.6 GPA. But after school, I was selling drugs and using drugs and drinking and just not really caring about my life, because I just really lost confidence. And that came from I was my senior year. I actually got a DUI. Me and a couple of friends were drinking at a park, and as we were getting ready to leave, the two police cars show up, and they bust me with a DUI. So my senior year, I kind of lost. And this was after football season, so I had letters and all kinds of stuff, and then I had that DUI, and I basically threw in the towel and was like, this DUI is the end of my life, end of my career, and I blamed everybody else for me messing up. It was my mom's fault, it was my dad's fault, it was this person's fault, and I really didn't take any responsibility, so I just turned to drugs and alcohol. And it wasn't until we actually at this point I was in jail, in and out of jail probably like 4 times, and I was only about 20 years old, and I decided to come out to Arizona with a couple of friends. And when we came out to Arizona, I started trying to get my act together. I enrolled in school for media, and I finished my degree. So as I was going to school, all my friends that came out here with me eventually left, but I had an obligation. I had to see myself through school. So I graduated with a degree in media arts, and while I was here, I was selling cell phones in malls. So I was going to different malls and selling cell phones. I would be one of those guys who would try to greet you and ask you what kind of service you have and try to switch you over. And I actually ended up meeting my wife while I was selling, and once we got together, we were pretty much inseparable. And at that time I was trying to do better, but still at the same time I was using and partying way too much. And the next year we had our first son, and ever since we had our first son, I haven't touched any drugs. I haven't done anything. So it's been about 10 years now. My son's 10 years old now. So my son was my why, and that was my motivation to kind of switch my life around. And when I was 22, I started working for this company doing credit card processing, and I worked there for about 4 months. And while I was there, I took it really serious, and I studied every single day. I don't think anybody else took it as serious as I did, because I knew I had to find a way to make this work, because I had a new son, I had a girlfriend, and I was new to the world, and I didn't know. I had to make it work. Like, I didn't want to rely on, so I didn't want to go back home to my parents because I haven't been home since I was 17 years old, and I didn't want to go back, and so I had to make it work, and I studied my ass off, and 4 months later, I got promoted to, they call that as a fancy title, it's a senior risk analyst, and they moved me out to Philadelphia from Arizona, and I started making six figures when I was about 23 years old, and at that time, we had our second kid, Aaliyah, and so I was out there, new family man, making $120,000, thinking that my shit didn't stink, and everything was on the up and up, and eventually I came back to Arizona. I started an internal division, so we had agents that were going out to different businesses and selling credit card processing, but I created this internal division where we did everything over the phone, so there was no need for an outside agent. And I started building the internal division, and in the midst of building the internal division, the owner of the company was like, all right, I'm selling the business, and you guys are all out of jobs. He said, you guys, I'll give you all the executives, all the senior risk analysts. He gave an option. He said, either you take a severance pay of, I think it was like $100,000 or something like that, or you start your own independent sales organization. So out of the 8 people, everybody took their severance pay, except for me. I took the business, and what I did was I got all of the best people from his business, and I hired all the best people from his business. Even some of the executives that took the severance pay, I brought them on as well. So I started building my company up that way. Eventually, they dropped off, and I started training new people, and that just led me to opening up an office. I had an office in Tempe, Arizona. I have an office in San Diego, California, which is ran by my partner, Kevin. And then I have the office here in Chandler, Arizona. So right now we're just working on growth and trying to get better and get to the next level. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell, man. I don't know if I could go into detail on some more stuff, but if you have any questions about that,
yeah,
hit me.
It's a lot that you've experienced. I appreciate all the insights, and from the early age, the gang violence to the drug exposure by people you trusted in, to leading a life down the wrong path, quote unquote, if you will, that kind of strayed you away from where you are now, and you were able to overcome it. To obviously identifying your why with your son, and now you've grown a family of 4 kids. So share with us a little bit about the personal life and managing the business life with the responsibility of being a father for 4 kids.
So family comes first, always. But at the same time, how am I going to provide for my family without taking care of my business? So in reality, I have to put my business first, because without my business, there is no family. I mean, I can go out and get a job and struggle like the rest of the country, but I want something better for my kids than what I had. So I'm constantly working, constantly on my grind, but at the same time, I always make time for my family. Every night, I dedicate at least an hour or 2 to sit down with my kids and either watch a movie, play a game. We've been playing Life, the game of Life lately. So my son's really good at chess. He likes video games. We play Madden. And finding like genuine interest that both me and my kids can both enjoy doing. Like I enjoy going out and eating ice cream, especially after, you bring your report card home and they're all A's. Like, yeah, we're going to eat ice cream. So I'm really proud of my kids. I don't think, they would be nearly as good as people as they are without my wife. She's the mastermind behind everything. She takes care of the kids and studies with them and cooks dinner, and like being a full-time like mom is like the hardest job ever. So she gets, she gets the utmost respect for doing that, because I know, I've been with my kids for a couple of days, and it's it's a hard job. Like, I would rather be in my office making calls, running my business, doing what I had to do, than being at home having to discipline the kids all day. It's a hard task, and then trying to feed everybody and keep the house clean. Like, I'd rather be here. So she's the mastermind behind the family. My kids are awesome. They're both of the kids that are in school are straight A students. My son plays football. My daughter's a cheerleader and she's in dance. And then my two youngest ones, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My 3-year-old, she's just a little love bug, and my 1-year-old, she's walking and talking, and she's trying to figure out the world. So it's the best feeling in the world, man. Like, I wouldn't replace being a family man with anything. Like, that comes before anything. And the business is just my tool to give my family the life that they need, if that makes sense.
That makes more than enough sense. And my time will come to take that first step into building my own family. And, a lot of what you share is a lot of what, I resonate with, and hopes that one day I can lead that life as a provider, but as a father, and understanding that there's more to life than just business, that family is everything. And it's a part of the journey. So, what advice do you have for the listeners out there who, are struggling to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I love my kids, with all of my heart, but don't start too early. When there's never a right time to become a parent, but at the same time, don't start too early. Like, just be about your money, be about your grind. Like, the family stuff will come. That's it is what it is. It's gonna come eventually. But worry about taking responsibility for yourself first, and then going and creating a family. Me, it was backwards. I had to have, like, I didn't care for myself enough to do it for myself and just myself. I had to have my son I had to have my son before I realized how precious life was, because I had no regards for my own life. I didn't care what happened to me, so I needed somebody else to care for. And when I had that, then that's when I went into the light side. But it's not that the story's not the same for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has their own why, and I think that if I didn't meet my wife and I continued down the same path that I was on, I would be dead. Like, there's no, like, I'd be dead. There's no, like, question about it, because the things that I was doing, the people that I was hanging out with, it wasn't a pleasant scene. But it taught me to be strong, and that no matter what life throws at me, I know that I've seen worse and I've been through worse. So you can't hurt me. No matter what you say, no matter what you do to me, I can't be hurt, because I've been through it before.
Yeah, if you don't quit, you'll win. It's time to go all in, right?
That's it, man. That's it.
Hey, so listeners, we're here with Ryan Durden, a business owner, entrepreneur, coach, author. The list goes on, but nonetheless, a big family man. We're going over some great content and some of his life experiences. And Ryan, I want you to share with all of our listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at inspirational_Durden. I have a podcast. If you just look up Ryan Durden, that's RyanDurden. Momentum Media is the podcast, and we talk about success and what it takes to become your best self. And really the goal is just to help others achieve success. And you can also find me. I have a website. It's ryandurden.club. If you sign up there with your email, you'll get all the updates and everything. And then also my YouTube channel. Just type in Ryan Durden in Google, and all that stuff will pop up. My book's on sale on Amazon. You can go to my website and get a signed copy of my book. It's only $7.99, so it has way more. It's worth way more than $7.99. So it's a steal. It's my first book, and the value that I deliver is pretty good. Not only does it have my stories, but it has some of the things that the most successful people are doing to better their lives. And if we stop doing our podcast and stop spreading positivity and hustle and the grind and what it takes to be successful, then the shit that we see on the media, like all the negative and wrong information that was fed to us as children, that's all the people are going to hear. So, we got to keep on doing our thing and spread the word of positivity. And we'd be doing the world a disservice and our family a disservice. And the key is to get a bunch of people together and to get them out of their way of their old thinking and start thinking bigger. So I know on our podcast we went over achieving that $100,000 mark, but at $100,000 it's really not you're not really making that much money, especially if you had a family of four like I do. So $150,000 a month is when you start gaining that momentum, and then at $500,000, then you start getting some freedom. And then you realize, okay, since I can make this $500,000, well, why don't I go for $1 million? And then once you get to that $1 million, then you start helping people out. And that's when you start leaving, you can start building that empire and start leaving that legacy. So my goal is to get to that $1 million mark and have $1 million net, in my bank account in the next 2 years. So.
I love it, man. You're obviously inspiring me, and since I'm on the beginning of my journey, and since the last time we've connected, I couldn't agree with you more. And leveraging the podcast world as an outlet to spread positivity, there's so much that consumes our daily minds, from social media and how we lead our lives and who we network and associate ourselves with, that can bring us down from a negative standpoint, and there's so much opportunity for us to continue to deliver the message and inspire people across the world that I'm super excited for your journey and your next steps and holding you accountable, right, to your goals. And my goals on my end from an income perspective, from a personal perspective. So I'm definitely going to hold you accountable, and I hope that everyone who tunes in holds you accountable too.
Yep.
So I'm super excited for what's to come. Let's crush 2018. And Ryan, do you have any questions for me?
No, man. I appreciate me being on your podcast, and man, I wish you the much success, the best success, and that you get everything and anything that you want out of your life, and become the best self that you can.
Definitely, man. It won't be the first or the last time that we connect. There's so much to go over. I know we're both passionate on what it is that we're pursuing and what we're doing, offline from the podcast world. So we'll be in touch. And, I've said it once again, so I'll say it again. If you don't quit, you'll win. It's time to go all in.
That's it, man. I appreciate it.